On behalf of Sentinel Insights and Project 3 Consulting, welcome to Unlocking the Secrets of a CDP Implementation. I want to welcome all of our presenters today. Next slide. So that you all know who is coming up. We will be hearing from a trio of folks who are involved in the CDP implementation at Bluestem Brands. We are going to kick it off first with the CEO of Sentinel Insights, Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tara. My name is Kevin Wysocki. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Sentinel Insights. If we've never met, just one thing to know about me is I have a speech impediment, which will cause me to kind of stop talking in the middle of a sentence. I'll eventually pick up, but that's what that is. So I'm currently based in Denver, but I'm in Hawaii for 3 months, so please don't hate me. It is very, very nice here, and I hope all of you are staying warm. But I joined the industry back in 2008 as a consultant, really focusing on the implementation of all the various MarTech technologies that exist out there, and then moved into implementation strategy and led the innovation arm that we had there, which set all the standards and all the best practices for all the major technologies that we were implementing. And during that time, I kept seeing the same problem over and over and over again, which is that within weeks or months of actually handing over implementation to an end client, there would be an update on the website or in the tag management system or in any of the MarTech tools, which would break data collection in some way. And that wouldn't be noticed for days, weeks, or even months, at which points they would bring us back in to figure out what the problem is, identify the root cause, and fix it. And this break-fix cycle is just something that just keeps happening over and over and over again. And in large part was why I had such a great job security. But it also had a negative impact on the data and the organizational culture that prevented companies from actually making decisions due to rampant mistrust in the data that they were collecting. And so we created Sentinel Insights to help solve that problem for companies. And our mission is to help MarTech teams master the complexity of data collection while feeling confident in their data quality and the decisions that's being made from that data. And so why does the break-fix cycle keep happening to teams? You can move on to the next slide. It keeps happening because the MarTech ecosystem is extremely complex, it's fragile, and it's changing constantly. And so websites are essentially these web of interconnected technologies that rely on each other in order to collect that accurate data and then show that content to users, right? And so one example is if you have an analytics tag or a CDP, it relies on the tag management system in order to load, right? And the tag management system then relies on the data layer in order to capture all this rich information. That data layer relies on the CMS and other APIs, and that those APIs rely on other databases or infrastructure to be operational. And so as all of these different systems are constantly changing, it's impossible to keep up with all this manually. And existing solutions that have been around for 15 years that have tried to solve this problem using static auditing, they just never really worked. And so what's the solution, right? The solution here is real-time monitoring. You can move on to the next slide. And real-time monitoring is basically watching every single data point being captured by every marketing technology for every single user in real time. And so Sentinel Insights monitors all of your different tags and all your technologies. It monitors the data layer, as well as other digital experience events that actually impact data collection. And so those can be things like browser errors or different cookies, the user consent status, things like that. And when you actually have access to all of these different data points in a single location, you can do things like validate that any data point for any technology, whether that's an eval or custom dimension, right? Can actually check for anomalies versus what you're expecting to see. And we can also ensure that the user consent is being honored for every single tag at the moment of data collection. We can also make sure that each one of your technologies and tags are actually implemented based on industry best practices that may, they're only like an implementation expert like would know. And so if any of these issues are found, we can send you in alerts like in real time to inform you of these issues so that your team can fix them quickly and communicate like proactively. So let's go on to the next slide. So whether you have a CDP or are looking to get one, or it's complicated, Sentinel Insights ensures that our tech stack and your testing processes are ready for a CDP by delivering the oversight that's actually needed, like to manage data quality, privacy, and consistency over all of your platforms. And so we make sure that data is accurate and consistent, and that for a CDP to work effectively, you need high quality data. And Sentinel Insights ensures that all those different data points that are being fed into your CDP across all of those tools are accurate, consistent, and complete. And reducing the risk of like faulty data set entering your CDP. And when it does, because it will, you can make fast fixes in order to ensure that it's not going to impact the long-term like decisions you can make with that data.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
And CDPs so also often handles the sensitive customer information. And so making sure that there's a strong data governance and that you're not collecting PII or when users like haven't consented is extremely important. And then just monitoring any gaps or some data breakages that happens in real time, which just gives you like a proactive approach to be able to fix those issues and communicate them. So are there any questions that came up, Kara?
No, not for you yet, but I think it's the reason for everyone is Sentinel Insights was part of Bluestem Brands' journey, and we wanted to make sure that we explained how this tool fits into the broader story. So we might have some more questions about it because Ben's going to talk about it some more. Again, I encourage everyone to use the chat, ask your questions in there. We'll respond in the chat or follow up. But okay, now that we know that Sentinel was a piece of this story, I want to welcome Ben. He actually wrote up a paper about almost 3 years ago about the beginning of this journey. And today I'm going to talk about kind of the evolution where they are now. And as a little treat, Ben has shared that prior artifact that for those of you who are actually attending today and are on the webinar, we're going to share that with you. So he's prepared a little extra treat for all of you to understand kind of the journey and the process that he's taken with his team at Bluestem Brands. So Ben, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Kara. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you if I don't know you already. And thanks a lot for Sentinel and Project 3 for having me on here. They're great partners. And as Kara said, you'll see that old white paper, and you'll probably see some differences in some of the stuff that I'm showing you today that kind of illustrate some of that journey that we've been on over the past few years with the great partners we have here. So real quick about me, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I love hockey. I love slinging around data and making great customer experiences. I've got 3 kids, so I'm very rarely bored. I wanted to show you guys a little bit of the evolution of where we've come at Bluestem. There's a note on the bottom here about Bluestem and our mission. I work mostly on the Fingerhut brand at Bluestem, and we really try to improve our customers' lives through offering credit that they can use to purchase things from us and then build or rebuild their credit standing. So it's a great company. I've been here about 18 years and have really loved it. So next slide, just a little bit more about Bluestem. We're based out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota. That is where I am now. It looks like I'm in some sort of CIA black site. I promise you I'm safe. I won't blink twice or anything like that if I need help. Other brands include Blair, Drapers, Appleseeds, Fingerhut in particular, where I mostly focus, a very catalog and direct marketing heavy legacy there. We got a huge online presence as well. About 95% of our sales come online. And as you see here, we have a proprietary credit product. About 98% of our sales come on our credit product. So we are kind of the original buy now, pay later, and we have a very data-driven culture. Everything data matters intensely to us in how we create our customer experiences, how we extend credit, how we sell things to our customers. So let's dive into a little bit more about what we've been doing with CDP. So Just a few stats for you. We are heavy CDP users here at Bluestem. We were amongst the first to kind of enter into CDP land, and it has been quite a journey. You'll hear journey a lot, and by hearing journey a lot, I don't mean don't stop believing. You'll just hear the word journey a lot. We've got, many connections, many tags, data sources, attributes, all of that. I show you this just to illustrate that it's a complex ecosystem. As we've gone through this ride, one thing that I've definitely found is that the foundation of good data can strengthen all of what you see on the screen here. Doing all of this with a mess of data would be really ugly. And at times it has been. Enter Sentinel and the help that they've given us, and Project 3 and the help that they've given us on strategy, implementation, etc. Now we have a really firm base, and we're doing some really excellent things with our CDP. So next, you can't get through a Ben presentation without a hockey slide of some sort. We got to get that out of the way. So our internal team here at Bluestem is really the forwards and the centers. They're handling the puck, making the drive, trying to score, trying to get that next sale, that next credit application. Project 3 is backing us up on defense. They hold the blue line. We miss a pass, they make sure we've got it. They back us up for the assist when we want to get a goal. Then enter Sentinel as the goalie, right? They keep us safe with a strong foundation of data so that nothing's slipping through that we don't want in there, allowing us to go on offense and play our hardest. One note, we never pull the goalie. We always keep it safe with Sentinel in back there. All right, next slide. So a little bit more about what we're doing with Sentinel in particular, right? We are utilizing multiple AI processes that help run our business. And we do not want to worry about the data that we're giving to AI. We want to give it clean, compliant data from the get-go. We want to have a process that creates less work through AI, not more, as we try and clean up data and scrub it to give to AI, right? CDP data in particular is a major driver of our models, machine learning exercises, et cetera. And we expect our data scientists to model, not clean and rearrange. So we have a data flow efficiency that depends on us receiving data, cleaning it, giving it to other systems, et cetera. That's not what we want. Our data flow efficiency is right off the bat, accurate, complete, compliant. If any of my other Bluestem folks are on here, you'll know compliant gets mentioned twice. We want to make sure that data is flowing exactly where we need it, how we need it. And we need to know if something's off in our data layer, right? If we're passing PII, if we're violating consent or have any anomalies, we really need to know that before we start using the data. So I'll walk through, a little bit of what we're doing with CDP so you guys get a taste of the flavor of what's up. So one of the big things we're doing really is just creating savings, right? So the easiest way that we create savings using our CDP is by not spending money we don't have to. So for instance, we might not advertise where we don't need to. If you have an account that's closed with us, or some of our model scores say you're ineligible to buy from us, or you just purchased, there's no reason for me to keep advertising to you and spending that ad money on you. So we do a lot of exclusions, pushes and pulls from our marketing lists into Meta, Google, et cetera, to make sure that we're targeting the right folks at the right eligibility with the right message as well. Next, we also are allowing ourselves to use best-in-class vendors and their systems because of an open ecosystem. So we partner with AWS, we partner with Databricks, all of the marketing alphabet soup that you can think of. And what we try to do is create a structure that we've got really good, clean data, thanks to Sentinel, that's usable by any vendor. That allows us to consolidate vendors, consolidate processes, and even negotiate better pricing and volume. One example, we actually make far fewer server calls due to Sentinel out to Adobe. So we've saved a fortune on Adobe. We can also fire or just not hire vendors because we have a strong data flow that allows us to create data products that help us to not need certain vendors at all. So, one good example is we have a fraud detection tool completely fed off of CDP and Telium data that helps us model out if we think some transactions or visits were fraudulent, all thanks to the data infrastructure that we have in place and knowing that we have clean, compliant data thanks to Sentinel. So a lot of strengths there. Because you all are here to hear a little bit more about CDP roadmap and getting started, in general, we have 4 main steps in the CDP roadmap. You can see them here in bold on the screen. Project 3 can help immensely with things like buy-in, determining roles and strategy, choosing a CDP. There are a lot of CDPs out there. It continues to grow. It's billions of dollars in the industry now. Picking one can be pretty tough, and Project 3 is great at that part. I'm going to zoom in a little bit today just on the onboarding part and getting things off the ground. And on the next few slides, I'll walk you through that. But of course, ongoing usage, very important as well. Another great spot for our friends at Project 3 that can help you out with that continuing roadmap beyond your initial use cases. So first, this is somewhat the unsexy part of CDP. And Scotty didn't know I was going to say sexy in this presentation. Sorry, Scotty. So first and foremost, you really want to have a good design phase. It's really tempting to go have some fun, hop right into the tool, start clicking around, making audiences, firing off API calls, all of that. I'm a nerd at heart. I like those fun parts of the CDP, but you can save yourself a lot of headaches later on by creating a well thought out data layer. You might want to start fresh with your data layer, or at least do some cleanup of what's out there. So think of things like a naming convention, right? Instead of calling something an ID, you might have a product ID, a customer ID, an order ID. Keep things less confusing for yourself, right? Again, this is where Sentinel can help immensely in not only that data layer design, but in ensuring the quality of it as it keeps coming through. So consider things like, do you have PII that needs special consideration or hashing, right? Are the necessary pieces of information available at the right time when your CDP needs it? You might even need to consult some of the documentation of some of the endpoints you'll be hitting, like Facebook, GA4, et cetera, to see their required fields for certain actions. Can be super handy as you design that data layer. Next is MVP use case design. Oh, sorry, hop back one, John. So on your MVP use case, this is where, well, it's tempting to boil the ocean and do a massive orchestration and make something, really cool. Initially off the bat, I would highly recommend something just really simple. Think like a cart abandon, a retargeting use case. You might already be doing these things even, but we can make it more effective via doing it with a CDP. So think about things like building a better visitor profile, stitching across devices, advanced matching with first-party data, right? That's where your CDP can really add a turbo boost to your existing use case. So shifting that off of something that might be like pixel or cookie driven onto the CDP can be a fantastic first use case because you know what to expect. You know how it should work, and you can actually see the incremental gains off of your existing process. From here, you can certainly iterate later, right? You can add on more segmentation, you can do A/B testing with it, make more orchestration through more channels, but you could end up really like pulling your hair out when you're doing a really complex implementation for your first use case and it's not working how you wanted it to. And nobody wants that struggle just getting the first use case off the ground. Next, under documentation, this again, not the most exciting part of it, but I can't stress enough to create strong documentation. I really like a format, Excel workbook, 3 tabs, right? Attributes and variables, audiences, and connectors or actions, right? Those things all link together And keeping track of those three will cause your future self to want to give you a hug when they're debugging some experience that's not working, or they're trying to iterate on it, right? Having that living, breathing document, which Project 3 can certainly help you with, is going to be a huge value to you or anybody else who's trying to do some work in their CDP. So grant yourself the time to check the 3 boxes that you have here, then move on to some of the fun stuff. All right. So next I'll talk just real quick about onboarding and staffing. Anybody can buy a CDP and just not use it to really get off the ground. I think that a really strong structure to how you're gonna staff it is important. So first you're gonna need a steering team, and these are the folks who really are able to help come up with use cases and actually have the ability to see them through. So this will certainly involve partners in your marketing, digital, e-com, probably even your legal and compliance area, to help your use cases come together and get shaped and decide on next steps of them. This team is really collectively responsible for seeing the CDP project through, not just for initial use cases, but as a place to revisit and say, hey, what do we do next here? Next up is your product manager. This is somebody who really owns the CDP as a technology and as a way of doing business day to day. They don't have to be the most technical, but should have a strong grasp of the things that the CDP can do in order to advocate for it and its use throughout new business endeavors and across departments with your business. So the next 2 resources are the ones that you might have as internal resources, or you could really rely on a partner like Project 3 for. So you'll need your analyst to actually be hands-on in the system itself. And resources with this expertise can be somewhat difficult to find. So, Project 3 is great at backing us up there. They provide a lot of these folks for Bluestem. It's really nice to have a backbone to call with somebody who can get their hands dirty and know all the ins and outs. And then finally, you'll want a strategist. So somebody who can engage right off the bat to help build out future use cases beyond your first, and to lend best practice design principles to your current use cases as you go on. So this person can be engaged periodically as the business changes. And again, Project 3 has some really good resources in this area. So next, the more fun part. You've designed, you've documented, you've staffed it. Time to actually maybe launch an MVP here, right? So I can't stress this part enough. Test, test, test. Most CDPs don't have a development or a QA environment. You're kind of straight to production. So make sure you're hiding those experiences to your users and triggering it only for the folks who are doing development. So there's various ways to do this. You can set cookies, use testing badges, et cetera. The easiest really is setting an attribute on a user via like a URL parameter or a certain customer ID that locks down those experiences just to that user that's doing testing. At this point, you want to document even more, which is super fun, right? It's important to document what's happening when your experiences are triggered and review with the other teams to make sure that it's all happening as you expected. So after you've done this, finally, you're ready to release it fully to production. But first, and it might sound frustrating, I'm going to ask you to test again. So you might want to launch with a connector actually turned off or in sort of a dummy state with a dummy account. The why behind this really is, as an example, you're populating a Facebook audience for retargeting, right? So maybe you're triggering a discount to users, et cetera. Launching that with a connector pointed live could be a little risky. Going inactive to a Facebook audience that is, not linked to any spend or a dummy discount that isn't usable yet will help you see what sort of volume you're going to be dealing with. You want to find that out before it's in the wild, and you're actually maybe costing yourself some money with this use case. So don't light up that live Facebook audience and blow your whole month's media budget in 3 hours, right? Or give out way more discounts than you had budgeted for. So give it a day, check your counts, then fully release that with live connectors. Once you've done this, still keep an eye on things. Check your analytics, check your vendor dashboards, monitor those counts just to make sure everything's working smoothly. Also a great time to revisit and update documentation with any last minute tweaks that you may have made with the live use case. As you're used to tracking and you're doing all of these things, also take this opportunity to really monitor and quantify the impact. So for your steering team, for your executives, this was a big investment, right? So celebrate the win, measure often. Some companies even launch CDP dashboards, red, yellow, green lights, how many dollars we've been making, what's incremental. We did that for about a year after we first had our CDP, and it really helped us win more use cases across the business. Also, this is a great time to start thinking about, okay, what are the next steps in that use case? Is there another audience we could point that up? How could we A/B test a different creative around it? Any of that. Finally, take those wins, like I said, celebrate, bring them to, your weekly business review, share them with other departments, and really build that momentum for new use cases and what's possible with the CDP beyond that initial use case. Next, I'll just give a couple examples of how we're using CDP to engage our customers, beyond some of our MVP use cases now that we've been doing it for a few years. So a big focus of ours is real time. So, not just your traditional marketing uses shifted over to the CDP, but how do we do it, faster and instantly and provide a really great experience for our customers? So, one really great example is, have you ever ordered something from a website and you didn't get an order confirmation email like immediately? To kind of like make you nervous, get the sweaty palms going on. You didn't get a push notification right away, even though you subscribed or that sort of thing. Move those processes, right? If you're using batch scheduled jobs and FTPs and whatever to sort of get these things done, toss that in your CDP and make it happen real time. Make your customers really comfortable with the experiences by giving them what they asked for immediately. Next, really doing the right message, right time. And there's marketing jargon around this all the time, but, really nuts and bolts are, hey, if I just shopped for bikes, stop showing me shoes, right? Use your Facebook or Google Ads connector to pull me out of that shoe audience and push me into the bike audience, right? Keep that relevance real time. And again, not shifting later and saying, oh, 24 hours ago, Ben looked at a bike. Let's swap them there and upload a new file to Facebook. We don't want any of that. Next, one thing that has worked well for us here at Bluestem is those engagements with customers when things don't always go great. So say sorry when a user shipment is late. Maybe they left a bad review. They got a site error. Engaging that customer right away when something went wrong is a good way to, establish or reestablish a good relationship. So a quick email from customer service after a bad review could go a long way. And you don't have to actually have the agent write the email. It can be, fairly boilerplate, and the CDP can fill in the details there for you. Finally, use those data pipelines that you're making with your CDP to really feed your AI and machine learning cycle to create, really great and intelligent customer interactions. So on this next slide, show just an example, a little bit of what we do at Bluestem using the Telium infrastructure. We use our CDP and our really nice clean data after it's been filtered through Sentinel to ignite the data pipelines. So you're collecting just a treasure trove of data now in the CDP. It's really an asset to your company. Use those connectors to avail that data to your modeling team through, an AWS bucket or Databricks or Azure, you name your cloud. It can be ported over into a data store. Then your team can use, their own modeling tools or a tool like Telium Predict to actually score and decision on those customers. And you can then enhance your visitor attributes with those scores and segmentation that you made, to make better decisions, again, in real time in the CDP and build more experiences for those folks based on those criteria. So there's really a great cycle that you can start to create that will really empower the business and will really get folks excited about some of the possibilities venturing into machine learning and AI with the CDP data. Finally, you really want to empower your enterprise with that rich and actionable data that you've created. So, the partnership with Telium, Sentinel Insights, Project 3, can really help your users across the entire enterprise create and utilize your own data assets. So I built out just a little diagram here of how it's working at Bluestem. We're collecting really great data in the CDP and in the tag management system, checked by the power of Sentinel. That can flow through, of course, to your third-party tags and into server-side connections, where you can not only fuel those real-time actions, but you start to make a really rich data set for the company, like I mentioned, in that AI cycle. So it's ready to power that AI, give analytics and insights to the company, feed machine learning, different segmentation, and really create, marts and different views in your cloud warehouse that your users may not have even thought of, that can be really, really powerful. So, to help invent and assemble and organize all of this, Bluestem really relies on our partnership with Project 3 and Sentinel and the expertise that they bring here. So it's been truly, really great. I'll pause there. And Kara, any questions for me?
Either you are the most amazing presenter, everyone's asleep, or they're scared to ask a question. I'm going to go with they're scared because you were so comprehensive. So this is your chance right now. Anyone, if you want to raise your hand or put a question in the chat as we transition over.
I'll take option A. Maybe I was just the most amazing presenter, right?
I appreciated it.
Well, nonetheless, feel free to hit me up, after this or LinkedIn with me. I will pass it on.
Emmy had a great question, Ben. You talked about the document that had 3 tabs on it. What were the 3 things in the document? What were the 3 tabs? Give it to us again.
Oh, yes. Yep. So you're going to want your user attributes, your audiences that are built of those attributes, and then your connectors. And link those 3 together by saying use case by use case, is this used? And then you can kind of go back and forth between those tabs as you review your use cases and say, hey, what am I actually using in my cart abandon or my retargeting use case?
Cool. Thanks. People can keep asking questions. We're going to move on and just give you a few more little tidbits from the Project 3 perspective with our CEO, Scotty Hagen. Scotty, you're up.
Awesome. Well, if Ben was working from a black ops site, looks like I'm working from a closet. So try to, hopefully it's not too distracting behind me, but if you can find the 2 or 3 Lego guys behind me, you'll win a prize at the end of this. But at any rate, thanks for having me. It looks like there's some people I know and some people I don't know that are on today, but really means a lot to me and the team that you've given us your time for us to present to you. So thanks for joining. A little bit about me. There's just a few things in this. I'm not going to go through these paragraphs, but you just need to know that I'm an avid Dave Matthews Band fan. I love Shirley Temples, and I use about 4 words very strongly: awesome, perfect, sweet, and absolutely. And if you're hearing absolutely from me, that should cause some concern, and I'll tell you why a little bit later, maybe over a Shirley Temple. But at any rate, let's jump right into the slide. So as Ben mentioned, he talked about use cases quite a bit. And if you picked up on what Ben was saying, is there's a lot of use cases that will be generated by that steering committee, the product manager, and the stakeholders. And when you have all of those use cases that are coming at a team, where do you start? And the place you really want to start is have an understanding of your technology, and you want to have a roadmap for that technology so that you can understand what use cases can be executed on and when should you be executing on those use cases. For example, you want to execute on the highest value use cases first, and the ones that you can actually execute upon with the technology you have at hand. So really a big proponent of making sure having that roadmap set right away for that successful foundation. So next slide, please. So how do you set or create that? Here at Project 3, we use a fairly common methodology, which is the user journey use case methodology. This will look really familiar to some of you folks that are on the call because you're current customers of Project 3. This is how we really approach our work with a CDP and in other areas too. But really, this 6-step process, and actually maybe a 7th because we kind of repeat, if you will, but really looking at understanding what are the needs of the business through that, what are the use cases out there, understanding what you need to look at from a KPI perspective, understand that tech stack, and then when you have all of that, prioritizing, executing upon it, and then really are you moving the needle with the use cases that you have at hand that you're executed upon, and then you rinse and repeat on that. So this is really in a nutshell how we would approach and have approached Bluestem and gotten them into a place of success. So if you go to the next slide, please. There's a lot of reasons you want to use this methodology, but a couple of my favorite reasons are, and I'll get into this in a couple slides, but really what you can start to see, we're all very familiar with kind of that tension between, sometimes it's not healthy and you know it's there, between the technology side of the house and the marketing side. We've all been there where there seems to be a little bit of clashing. When you're using a methodology like the user journey use case methodology, what you'll find is you'll start to see improved stakeholder alignment. So instead of really having one side of the house making decisions that don't seem, and one side looking at those decisions as being poor or faulty, you actually start to bring alignment with some of these next slides that I'm going to show and why and how you gain that alignment. The other thing that this methodology really promotes is the better product market fit, which is really important. And what I'd boil that down to is you're doing the most valuable thing first and that you're capable of doing. So you're getting it out quick, and whatever that value that you're looking for, whether that's you want to increase your audience or you're looking for more revenue, whatever that goal is that you have with that use case, you get there much quicker with what you have and how you and what's in your arsenal to execute. So a lot of benefits, but we'll move on for now. So as I mentioned, one of the first steps is discover. So this happens in a lot of ways, but it really starts with somebody going around and talking to different stakeholders, whether that's legal, marketing, could be the call center, depending on what the business units you have. Even legal, for example, it would be definitely a stakeholder. But you compile a massive list of the use cases that you have, or even that you want to do. So here's just 5, and we all know that's an extremely low number. But Ben actually mentioned a few of these. So cart abandoned email is a like one of the use cases a CDP will knock out of the park almost immediately. And I like to, kind of take a step back and say, back about 10, 15 years ago, cart abandonment email to do that use case actually took a lot of bubble gum, popsicle sticks, duct tape, process tools. Took a lot to do that use case, but it was possible. But now with a CDP, you have one system that can do that for you. So if you kind of remember that example as I go through these next slides, it might start to solidify why this process that Project 3 uses and can help you with really will make sense and make, like bringing value a lot quicker and easier and pain-free to an organization. So again, discovery, get a list of the use cases that you are currently doing and what you want to be doing in the future. Next slide. Real quick here, you map those on the left-hand side at the bottom grid. You take your use case and then you understand what KPIs are going to be impacted by that use case, and you list them all out. So we've just done that with dots. And then with red dots, you can really just say, hey, we don't have that KPI covered, or that data point. So you go through this exercise and you get basically grids created of what's known, what's not known. And we'll go to the next slide. You couple that with another grid, which is your tech stack. So on the left-hand side, again, you'll have a list of all your use cases and what technologies do you need to execute on that use case. So for example, in this rudimentary example, the funnel analysis or remove ads, we just put in a couple placeholders to show, hey, you're going to need analytics, you're going to need a data layer, you're going to need some type of testing for platform. Oh, we don't have that, so we're going to gray it out, or it's inoperable or whatnot. But you create this this grid so that you understand your use case against your technology stack. You combine those together and you'll start to see a picture, which is that picture, I would say, is your roadmap. And you can start to see, like, okay, I can do this now because I have these things in place, whether that's technology or the data points I'm collecting. And then if we go to the next slide, you get into a discussion about how do I prioritize those? And I would recommend, and Project 3's recommendation is, you don't just lean on one prioritization mechanism. This is just one, which is called RICE, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with RICE, but it's reach, impact, confidence, and effort. There's a litany of other ways to prioritize your use cases, and things will come up. Maybe leadership is really pressing hard on a certain use case that needs to, kind of jump over the others. And though it might not make sense from a RICE scoring perspective, there might be a really critical need to have that use case jump to the front. However, with this, you go through that prioritization and you systematically now take all those use cases with what you can and cannot do currently from either a technical perspective or a tracking perspective, and you get a RICE score. Fairly simple. And then that's how you should look at the RICE score, is basically telling you, hey, this is what's going to give us the most impact for the effort we're going to put in. If we go to the next slide, once you've used that RICE scoring and you've executed, you go into measuring and then that repeating process. One thing about that I didn't mention about the RICE scoring or that prioritization method, I would strongly recommend that you have something that's very consistent within your organization. The reason being is, and this will help with the kind of that struggle between technology and marketing teams. You're all on the same page on what's going to benefit the company. It's not one person who's speaking the loudest. It's not, hey, this seems like the shiny new thing we should go after. It's helping make sure everybody's on the same page, and I would even argue it's helping mend relationships between these two organizations where sometimes there's that rift naturally. So at any rate, you execute, you measure upon that, and then you repeat. And I would say, in my experience, if companies are using this methodology, and certainly Project 3 can help instill this and put this into practice and for companies, I would say you want to do this process at minimum every quarter, but you really, if you got a well-oiled machine, you're doing it almost monthly or by every 2 weeks. The more frequently you're doing it, the more impactful and the more value you will realize for your company, the quicker. So anyway, next slide, which is questions. So I know I really went through those fast. I wanted to make sure I left some time for questions, but Kara, I'll pass it back to you.